Hello, Zoom people. Sorry, just unmuted. Okay. Let's get started.
We're doing a Unity art workshop today, and here are our names.
I'm Karina. I'm the art workshop officer, so I'll be teaching 2D art this semester, 3D art next semester.
I'm Ryan. I'm the Unity workshops guy, and I'll do 2D games this semester, and we do 3D games in the spring. You guys stick around. And so a couple things that are coming up for us: the Jam workshop, another one next week. So if you like this one, another one next week, September 20th. That one is going to get us ready for the game jam that we have coming up. So if you guys are excited about making video games, game jams are honestly the best way to do it. Like, make a video game in a certain amount of time. You're going to be pushed for it.
Even if you have zero experience, it's a great way to get started.
Okay.
Okay. And so these workshops lead up to our Texas Game Jam, which is next weekend, the weekend of the 23rd. This is a 48-hour game jam. So you'll make a game from scratch in 48 hours with a team, or you could do solo if you're ambitious. Our kickoff and theme review are going to be in the auditorium of this building at 7 p.m. And you can attend hybrid or online or in person. Sorry. So you can join our Jam Discord there, and there's a Google sign-up form as well. So, all right. Yes.
Probably try it in 24 hours.
If not, we also have a smaller game jam during the winter break, and then we also have one in the spring. But this is our big event of the semester. Yeah.
Is it like you can't just like,
you can work that out with a team. It's pretty flexible, so it should be okay. Yeah.
In my experience, and I think anyone who's been in the game jam knows this, if you're not using all 48 hours, you're not staying up, pulled it all nighter. You got to be crazy. You're sleeping and you're having fun. It's meant to be fun. Okay, and notes today, the 13th, our junior officer applications are due at midnight. If you guys want to be involved with the club in any way, junior officers are like people that go around and then shadow the real officers, kind of like CAs or interns, I guess. And we do like junior officers a lot. So I mean, if you stick around, junior officers usually make it to real officers. So, you know, you can help run the org, you can help us out a lot.
Yeah. And a special thanks to our sponsors for that. And then a couple ways that you can stay connected with our org. You are probably already in the Discord, and if you're not, you should join, because that's where we put everything. Our announcements, our info, and then you can chat with other EGaDS teams if you'd like. And then we've got some other socials as well. And it'd be cool if you joined EGaDS officially. You can just come up to meetings and not pay any dues. But if you do pay dues, you can get a cool t-shirt like the one that Noah is wearing right there. Yeah. Just Venmo our Texas EGaDS and Venmo. And then we also have some other perks like exclusive access to the EGaDS career fair, and other things as well. All right. You ready?
Yep.
Okay.
Okay.
Without further ado, Brian, we'll start.
Okay. Yeah, here's the Unity workshop. This will run from 6 to 7. And then afterwards, we're going to have Karina come up here and teach us about art. It's awesome. I'm definitely going to stick around for hers. Hopefully you guys do too. So first question about Unity, every single person asks it. I don't know why. I asked this when I joined the club in the first place. Everyone says, why not Unreal? Why not Godot? Why not blah, blah, blah? Why not Game Maker? Why Unity? Any ideas? No? Versatile. Okay, I like that. Yeah, I mean, if you go to export on Unity, you can export to literally anything, Xbox, etc. Yeah, that's getting closer to it. I saw you in the back. Yeah, I think it is. Yeah. There are some stats about that. There's like 60% of mobile games are made in Unity, something crazy like that. But Fortnite is made in Unreal, so gotta keep that in mind. But okay, so about Unity is that we're college students, and unless you have a supercomputer, you're not going to be able to run Unreal. I can't even run Unity on my laptop. So imagine trying to run Unreal. That's just impossible. I'm actually using, if you see the bottom right there, you see that icon, using a little program called Parsec to actually stream my gaming computer. But I still can't run Unity. Can't run much on this laptop at all. I hope you guys are able to run Unity. But Unreal is just like a whole other notch. You can't do much with Unreal. And then on top of it, Unreal is very hard to complete things in a short amount of time. Like if you're trying to do like a game jam, 48 hours, Unity is the best thing. Unreal, you're going to be working out like how pretty your graphics look and how 4K and prices and whatnot. So yeah, Unity, think of it for like shorter games, faster games, but it's just, if you spend your time in it, you can make things look good. A lot of people don't, which is why Unity has a bad name for making bad games, because people don't really spend much time in it. But the fact that you can make a game within 5 minutes is nice. Okay, so have you guys seen these games before? Yeah, okay. Anyone have any ideas what their names are? Stray. Okay, we got the other one. Oh, the one on the right. That's the two different games. Yeah, Stray has the same cyberpunk thing going on. Cyberpunk, there it was, or Cyberpunk 2077. We gotta elaborate. Yeah, but yeah, but yeah, of course. But so what happens with games is that games don't actually have to be, you don't have to program them in any good way. And something about Stray and Cyberpunk you guys probably know is that these games came out and they have a lot of bugs. Like your cat will go to the edge of platforms, like spaz out, you know, like what's going on. And then in Cyberpunk, people would be like, I think I have a slide of it. But so the thing about games like Cyberpunk and Stray, it just shows you that you don't actually have to be a really good programmer to make a really good game. You know why? Because those games have amazing graphics. And you just go on, the city looks so awesome, the cats look so awesome. That's why you got to stick around for Karina. You're gonna have an hour of just literally making games like Cyberpunk and Stray. You don't even have to listen to me. You can make games like Cyberpunk and Stray just by following Karina. Have you good art? Okay, so I hope you guys got the message earlier today. Download Unity. Everyone download Unity, hopefully. try downloading it right now. It's going to take hours. Oh my god. Okay, so hopefully, yeah.
If I didn't download Unity, will this be accessible later in this workshop?
Yeah, we're going to have the entire thing recorded, posted to Zoom. We're actually live streaming it to Twitch as well, probably, I think. And it's going to be probably in one of the channels. We have workshop resources channel. We'll have everything, including some art, hopefully, if you guys do some. So you guys have Unity 2021, 2022. Which one do you guys download?
2021.
Okay. So yeah, 2021 LTS is usually the version you try to shoot for as a game developer, because you don't want to be moving between versions or updating. So anytime you read LTS, means long-term support, try to stick with that. Because if you don't want to be on the bleeding edge updating, like Windows update every 2 seconds, bad. Okay, so templates, we're going to be using a 2D template. Now, can anyone tell me what happens if you choose a 3D template and you're like, oh, I want to make a 2D game? Any ideas? You can still make a 2D game. Yeah, these templates mean nothing. They mean dog, dude. Unity just threw them in because they thought they'd confuse you. But really, the templates really, they tweak some settings. Like, oh, we'll have a camera that's kind of like the focus is on a 2D environment. And they literally do nothing. You could go do 3D, URP, you could literally do anything there. Just tweak the settings back a little bit, you have a 2D template. So the templates, they're just tweaking a little bit of settings. It's still the exact same thing. Templates mean almost nothing, but just for recommendation, I suggest you guys start out with a 2D template because we're gonna be doing 2D games. Okay, so in the EGaDS Discord server, I'll post this when we open up Unity. Yes, are you opening up Unity yet? No? Okay, let me open it. Okay, keep track of where it's downloaded. Let me post that real quick. So when Unity opens up, you've seen this hub, right? That's big, right? There it is. Okay, Unity looks like this for you guys when you open it, right? Unity hub at least. And then the hard part was downloading one Unity version. These things are like 40 gigabytes. I don't have enough space for it, but I had to make room. So you guys have 2021 or something downloaded like that. And the first thing you want to do is just click on new project up in the top right. So just click on new project, okay? And then you want to just go 2D. And notice that it looks a little bit different from the pictures I showed you because they update this every 2 seconds. And then make sure at the very, very top, you see editor version. You want to put that on whatever editor version you're on. I like 2022, but it's going to be the exact same thing for you guys. Yeah. Okay, so click on 2D in 2022. You all got that? Okay. Yeah, don't have Unity. Okay, then you want to click on create project. Now what it's going to do is it's going to do. That's the part that takes a while. Okay, so. Okay. Okay, so after that loads up, you guys are probably going to see a screen that looks like this. Okay, I'm not sure if you guys are following too much. Is it still loading for most of you? Okay. Yeah. This. Imagine how long Unreal takes. Okay. Oh, it's speeding up. Okay. I don't want to lose you guys too much. I want to wait a little bit for this so everyone kind of had it open so we can start going along. Hopefully your computers are faster than mine, but
if it's already loaded, but your parsec is lacking.
Bruh, my parsec is not 20 seconds behind.
Well, your network seems to be slow.
Oh, that's UT Wi-Fi. UT Wi-Fi is not too good. Oh my God, you might be right. Yeah. So once you guys get Unity open, has anyone gotten it open yet? Has anyone not gotten it open? Yeah, it's very. So you guys know who the people with the fast computers in the room are. Look around. So the first couple of things in Unity, as you guys know, this is an intro to Unity workshops. So some of you in the room might be like, I've already done this a million times over. Guess what? We're learning intro. And so game objects, importing stuff, and scripting is the thing that I want to cover today. I heard that it's almost impossible to cover a lot of things in workshops like these. So fine, but we can start it off. So anyone know what a game object is? Any ideas for that?
An object in the game.
That's actually very accurate. That is the most accurate description. Yeah, okay. So what are you saying? Game objects have positions and rotations? Well, why does that matter? Okay, so give me an example of something in this room that might be a game object for putting Unity. Okay, so chairs might be game objects. All right. Yeah, me, the NPC at the front of the room. I might be a game object, you guys. But so game objects, the way to think about them is that game objects are something called containers, right? And what they do is they contain a lot of information. Like me, the NPC, I contain information about game objects that I'm teaching you right now. So, but what game objects have on them is scripts, location data, rotation data. If I were to go like this, like what am I doing? Rotating, how many degrees is that? Yeah, about 10. Yeah. But that's what you can do with game objects, and you'll notice it in Unity right away. You can place an object, hit that rotation, start rotating it however much you want. And so that's how we position things in our world. You can think of, grab this microphone, you move it around, rotate it. That's your game object, and you're moving and rotating it. And what we do in Unity is something called components. Now, I wish I had my, but yeah, okay. But so what we have in Unity are something called components. So if you guys, does everyone have to open now? Yeah, it's still loading. Still loading. Okay, but so what happens? Now here, actually, let's get into this first. So game objects, importing stuff. We'll get into that a little bit later. That's easier to see when I have the actual Unity open because you're like importing stuff. What the heck? But what you can do with Unity is what we do here. For instance, I want to show you. Let's go. Yeah. What's that? Yeah, this is called the Mega Micro Jam. It's one of the jams we do throughout the year. And whose art is that? Do you think for one of them? Yeah. Which one do you think is Korean? Let's just make a solid guess. Top right. I heard that somewhere. You see that little B, all Karina. But so yeah, you guys, you can get a lot. I mean, everything looks so professional when you just do art. But think of like all the title screen and stuff like that. Think of all the movements, the liquids. That's all Unity. That's all us. We got to make the hands shake and whatnot. Now, so in the bottom right, for example, you see the Chef Ramsay. Or the B version of him. So when the hand is shaking, what do you guys think is happening? What is that hand? Game object. But yeah, so what they're doing with that is we're literally just moving around a game object 1,000 times, right? Making that little effect happen. And so game object, I know it sounds really generic right now, but once we start making them in Unity, you'll get a really pinned down thing. Okay, I want to see how far I can get without having Unity open. So okay, does anyone have Unity open? I wonder if I can just get by and use these screenshots. Okay, actually, this is a pretty accurate screenshot, I'm not gonna lie. Okay, so this is wild because they're doing it for like a 3D game. Okay, but this is what basically Unity looks like, or the trademark. Bad English, but so yeah. Also, always in the top left, we're going to have a hierarchy of things that we have in our game. What do you guys think these things that we have in our game are? Yeah, they're objects in our game. And so as you can see, they have positions and rotations, and you can kind of see the positional vectors. Don't worry when anyone says the word vectors and game stuff, like you're like linear algebra, not that hard, super easy, barely an inconvenience. You guys get that. But so we have all this stuff actually in our scene. The scene is what every little section of the game is called. We package them into things called scenes. So this scene, as you see right over here, must be called like the tunnel scene, right? It just has a bunch of tunnels in it. And we have a bunch of spiders in our scene. I do not want to be in that tunnel. But so we have all the spiders, game objects in our scene, and at the bottom we have a bunch of folders. Now, so if this is what's in our scene, what do you guys think this is? Yeah, there you go, assets. So this is basically what's not in your scene, or what could be in your scene if you just drag it. And that's actually how Unity works, is most of your work, you'll be dragging stuff from these assets down here into the scene. And so pretend you'll have like a picture of like a like Mario or something like that. You literally will drag the picture into your scene and it will make a game object for you automatically. It'll have positions like that. Okay. So this is like the wacky, I know everyone opens up Unity for the first time. They're like, what the heck is all this? So hierarchy, assets. Let's go over to this side. What do you guys think all this stuff is? Components, yeah. So these are the properties of the game object we were talking about. Remember, we said game objects were technically containers. So this is all the things that they contain. Can you guys read off some of this stuff? Health, mech movement, destroy object, capsule, glider, right? What do you guys think these components are referring to? I mean, if the names aren't referring, obvious enough, right? and we get health, right? So obviously we have a big health script. And you can see it says script right here, which means somebody actually types out when the code, we'll get into the code. Code's a little hard. But somebody typed out a health script and they made it do all that stuff. Now, capsule collider, what do we think that is? Yeah, okay, a collider. And so if we put a collider on a game object, what do you guys think happens? If game objects are these things in our game, okay, yeah, it boxes, but it also works for, like, imagine like I'm your game object, right? I'm your NPC. What if I just start doing this? I start running into the wall. What happens? Collision. There you go. I'm colliding, right? And that's because I have a collision attached to me by God or Newton or whoever put collision on me. If you disable that, you're gonna have things run through walls. You're gonna have crazy like cyberpunk stuff happening. And so the colliders are very important in all your games. If you don't put them on things, that everything's gonna go through each other. So what we mainly leave colliders off of are things like bullets and projectiles, things that usually don't really, I mean, you can just fly through. It's fine, nobody cares. Or like background images, right? No collider. Who cares of the sky? You can't touch the sky. But so those are the ideas of components. Okay. And you guys will see this right down here. But there's console right there. Now this console is like the magic tab that you guys will probably always be in, because that is what debugs all of our scripts over on the right side, because the majority of your work as a developer work is going to be putting these assets into the scene, arranging them, making your cool tunnels, but it's going to be scripting them to make them actually look really nice and like the characters move around and shoot each other. That's what the scripts are for. You got to do a bunch of if conditions and say, if player shooting, spawn projectile. Literally just like animate it in a certain direction. Now, I wanted to cover some player movement with you guys.
Sorry, my laptop is not bad.
Yeah. But okay, let's see. Okay, so yeah, so scripts control the game, and Unity, the scripts let us develop a little bit easier. And so you're gonna have things, you can name your game objects whatever you want. And so, like if we go back to that picture over here. Oh, they don't have it. Oh, let's see if we can find a better picture. Okay, yeah, here's an awesome picture. I think it's of the same game. I don't know why the game has so many screenshots. Okay, but you see this name, oh God, it's so tiny. You see this name up in the top right. So what we do with the game objects, if you guys remember that screenshot I was showing you of the left side and the hierarchy of everything, what we do is we name all our game objects certain things that we want them to be easy to come back to. And these names are very important because we could just literally find objects in our scene because we look, it's all labeled alphabetically. We just kind of go for R, robot arm, A, enemies, E, enemy. Okay, tags, layers, models. Oof. So layers, not something you want to get into. It's not something you actually have to deal with at all. Like you could probably stay away from it and develop entire games. It's a little silly. But what I want to talk to you about is tags. Now, tags, most often place it comes up when is imagine you have an enemy and you have a bullet that hits the enemy. How do you tell that a bullet is hitting the enemy? Coordinates. Okay, so you want to take the enemy's position and then check if the bullet's position is constant hitting it.
You can check with colliders.
Yeah, colliders is how most people do it. I like the position idea though. That's interesting. Be checking positions and everything. But colliders are generally more efficient because you can just say collide, boom, it hits. And so the way we'll do that though is if you just have two generic colliders hitting, right? This could be the enemy touching the ground or the enemy touching the player. All right. So how do we know that a bullet is touching the enemy?
Through tagging.
Yeah, through tagging, right? So if we put a tag on something, we say tag enemy, we can literally check if the enemy tag is touching your player, well, and your player takes 5 damage or 10 damage. If the bullet is tagged bullets and it's touching your player, it's gonna hurt your player. But so those are the concepts of tags, is kind of how you get around knowing what stuff is in the game, because usually you'll have tags like enemy, bullet, projectile, or something like that. Transform probably the most important of all the components, just for the reasons that you guys like to move around and scale. So you guys know what scale is, right? Anyone not know what scale is? Okay, well, that's great. Okay, so getting bigger and smaller, right? Rotations and positions. Now, the interesting thing about rotation is, have you ever seen rotation as an X, Y, Z coordinate? What do you guys think that's talking about? Okay, yeah, each axis, right? And so if it's doing 157 in the Y coordinate, what do you guys think that's doing? 157 degrees. Yeah, it's weird to think about, but you can just start playing with RGB, red, green, blue, X, Y, Z. Do you see this? Oh my God, did they? No, they kept it the same. Okay. so red is X, okay? Y is green, and Z. Just think RGB, X, Y, Z. So you can think of those coordinates. So whenever you see the colors, and what's going to happen in Unity is a lot, is you're going to be just dealing with the colors, right? How do you know which one is your X, Y, Z axis? You kind of just have to RGB, X, Y, Z, right? Just do that little acronym in your head. So RGB, X, Y, Z tells us, well, red is X, Y is green, and blue is Z. I know some of you guys may come from Blender where Z points up. This is Unity. So a little different, but you're gonna get super confused when we do Blender next semester with Karina, and she's gonna be showing you the Z coordinate. Now Unity, have you guys ever heard of something called Fraternions before? Okay, that's crazy rotation stuff. Try to stay away from it because Fraternions are like, it's like advanced math at UT, and it's also advanced math for us simple game programmers. Very hard to understand. Trust me, I've tried. Usually Euler's coordinates or degrees work for the most part. There's something called Gimbal Lock. It's not going to matter. You're not going to Gimbal lock yourself. You can search that up. It's like where you lock yourself. It's something silly. Usually doesn't happen. So you're fine using Euler stuff. Okay. Okay. So these other ones, sometimes you can tell what the silly components are, like poly surface mesh filter. Does that sound like a silly component? Yeah, it sounds kind of silly. That sounds like we can skip it. But mesh renderer, that sounds kind of important, doesn't it? What do you guys think a mesh renderer is? Yeah, okay. So if we wanted, like, we had like Mario on our screen, right? And maybe I'll finally get Unity open. So if we had like a little sprite that we want to show for our 2D game, right? What happens when we turn off mesh render? What do you guys think? Yeah, it just stops showing the sprite, right? Mesh render is what's making that entire thing appear in front of us. So the reason we disable mesh render is literally just because we want to just make something disappear. Like if imagine we're making a cutscene and we want like all the trees to disappear. Mesh render, black, off. All the trees are gone. And why do you guys think we would disable a mesh render instead of like an entire game object? Because there is an option right at the very, very top. We can disable an entire game object and have it just kind of like deleted from our scene by clicking this checkbox. So why do you think we want to make something invisible instead of like making it disabled entirely?
I don't feel like
So yeah, that's a good argument for disabling the entire object, right? Because you have a bunch of other scripts running in the background, like this animation script, right? Do not want that running, so you can disable the entire one. But why would you want to just disable like the rendering, just make something invisible, but like it's still moving around, like, I don't know, like a bad guy from whatever TV show that was, The Boys, the invisible guy translucent. Reference lost on people.
You want to keep the collider.
Okay, so why are you an invisible thing colliding with things? That seems kind of buggy. Okay. Yeah. I mean, so basically the best way we can think about doing this is when we have a mesh renderer, everything, the scripts are still running in the background. And so usually turning off the mesh renderer is the best way to just not like mess up your game. Because if you turn off an entire object, you might have like a movement script or like an enemy detection script running on your object, and you might not notice it. But when you disable the entire game object, you're actually stopping every single script that's running on that game object. And when we get into scripting, you have some cool scripts that you can do. And they'll be checking like every single second. Oh, has the enemy hit this wall? Has the enemy hit this wall? Has the enemy hit this wall? And if you turn off the entire game object, some of those scripts are not going to run anymore. So just keep that in mind between turning things invisible and turning them off completely. I would prefer to keep things invisible, but when you have gigantic games, you want to turn things off completely because it's going to be very bad for you to have scripts running in the background, but you can't really see what they're attached to. Okay. Okay, so I wanted to get into the code a little bit. Are you guys, what is the coding? Can we like a general level of like the coding level of everyone in this room? Like, what do you guys think? Like I don't know, hands, just like put your like thumbs like up, down, like how do we feel about coding in this room? Okay, I see a couple downs, some up. Okay, so mostly I average is right about here, just solid, because a lot of you guys are here for art anyway. I'm kidding. But don't worry, coding is actually very easy in game engines, and it's something you can probably pick up in a day or two. You can literally watch a YouTube video and have it down within the next hour instead of listening to me. But besides the point, so we can go over like basic variable types and stuff like that. But just what do you guys think? Have you guys all heard of like ints and floats before? You had your thumb down though.
I'm not very confident.
Okay, so ints are basically just whole numbers. Why do you guys think you wouldn't use an int for in your game? Just like a whole number, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. What would that be useful for in a game? Because you have to start thinking about how you take the application of code, how you take numbers and kind of put it within a game. Weird, it's like math in games, not fun, but like you can make it fun.
Use an int for the number of lives you have.
Okay, yeah, like in Minecraft, 20 hearts, right? Oh wow, now I have 19 hearts. Definitely an int, right? Somehow. Oh, okay, so maybe they're using a float then, right? If you guys don't know, a float is like a decimal point. We call it floating because that's what the decimal does. It kind of floats out there, I guess. But so you see, we have 5.5 for like a speed, right? Because that's just a generic number. 5.5 is a float. So any decimal. Ints, just a random number for some reason, equals 9, right? It's the whole number. What do you guys think you would use a float for in your game? Oh, what? Coordinates? Okay, yeah. So you guys actually, that's actually coordinates is a very, very good one. Because if you remember, we have all these transform properties right here, X, Y, Z. What do you think all of these are measured in? Close, very close. So these individual things, X, Y, Z, you see all these decimal points. What does that tell you? Yeah, so these are all floats individually, right? Individually, X, Y, Z are all floats. As a whole, though, it's something called a vector, which it gets super confusing real quick. But so vectors are what's interesting. So we're dealing with 2D this semester. So what do you think we're going to do about the Z? Yeah, we don't care about Z for the most part. What does Z do in the 2D world, do you guys think?
Where to go?
Yeah, so if you don't see something in your 2D world, just turn your Z up and they'll move towards the camera, right? Usually you want to keep everything Z on the same level, so everything is the same size. But if you move something closer to the camera or further away from it, you can start making like 3D effects. And you may have seen this in like, what is it, Amori or like other cool 2D games where you have 3D effects going on because they're moving things closer to the camera or away from them. And it's weird to do in a 2D game, but 2.5D, 2D, who's to tell, right? You can just kind of move things in and out. So yeah, individually, those things were all floats, which is cool because you're starting to learn. Now, what does the scale look like? These look like regular ints, don't they, right? You think a scale is just an int though? No, you could put like 1.1 and your thing would get kind of big. But so, okay. Yeah, let's do Unity. So to see this all happen in Unity instead of just off of some screenshot. The screenshots are cool. But
So literally. Take a take game programming paradigms with Professor Abraham. She hates Unity for that reason, pretty much.
Oh yeah, Professor Abraham pretty much solely teaches Unreal.
And Godot in tech.
She basically teaches everything but Unity.
You should do an Unreal session.
I mean,
We did better. I'll do one for you
I mean, people recommend us. We can vary up the workshops however you want.
next year.
We did a waifu workshop. If you guys want to learn how to draw anime. But waifu, what is that? Don't Google Translate that.
Okay. Actually, wait. Maybe I should mirror screen so you're not like
Yeah,
creating your deck.
that's funny.
Oh. We're all good. Sorry. Zoom's just being weird. Okay. I think we're good. I'm sorry I don't have a mouse, but
That's fine. You got a chunky laptop. Okay. Can you hear my Zoom?
I got asked.
Okay. Oh, it is fine. It looks fine. Okay. Okay. So. All right. So this is the what Unity looks like. You guys have seen this before, right? We've explained what is the left side. Can you guys repeat that to me again? Hierarchy, right? Think of kings and queens. That's basically what's going on in the hierarchy. You have basically have everything on top of each other and kind of in each other, like people control other things. We'll get into that. What is the bottom? Assets. The right side? Okay, okay. So you guys can start following along with me now. But what happens is when you make a new scene, Unity automatically makes a little camera for you. So if you click on that, you can see that all the camera stuff happens on the right side, all the components for the camera start up, because the camera is also a game object. They're everything. But so you see the camera actually has position, rotation, and scale all the way in the top right there. And so if we start changing these numbers a little bit, you see what's happening in the camera? Wow, left and right, up and down, right? And so what happens when we start changing the Z of the camera? Yeah, try not to do that, right? Just like, what is it even doing? It's really pushing it in and out, and we actually have to go into a 3D view. So if you guys see in the very, very top right, it says 2D right there. If you click the 3D button, it actually moves us into a 3D view. Not really recommended because it's kind of confusing, especially when you're making a 2D game. But if you ever thought of like how Mario would look like if you kind of just were in 3D, you just like click that 3D button, you'll see right away. Yeah, it's basically just you're seeing a flat piece of paper from like 10 different angles. Super weird. But so there's our camera, right? And we can move it around, and you can even directly type in these boxes. So let me just set that back to 0. And you can drag on these X and Y's if you guys want to try that out, just to do stuff. Now, rotating the camera is a little weird. I would definitely stay away from that. You should probably rotate your game or your objects instead of your camera. The only reason you want to rotate your camera is if you're doing like a 3D game, right? You're looking around, FPS, etc. For a 2D game, rotating your camera is going to be a little weird because you want to rotate the way you look at a piece of paper. It's gonna get real messed up real quick. So the first thing you want to do when you have Unity open and you have an empty scene like this, is you want to make something, right? You want to make something move around. You want to make a background, make something cool. So I don't have any assets here, so let's just, you can follow along with me, right? And we can just, hopefully nothing bad opens up on Karina's laptop. But we can literally just go to like Google or DuckDuckGo or Bing or whatever the heck you guys use, Baidu, then type in like blue sky background, right? And wow, very nice. Okay, now most people, they're like, okay, blue sky background, that looks really nice. I want to use that one. But you guys think the problem with that is? Yeah, copyright.
Also, it doesn't really make much sense.
Oh yeah, for a 2D game, right? 3D ultra realistic stuff. But so a trick to getting around copyright in Bing and other tools, you can go to tools right here, and you can actually sort by usage rights, Creative Commons, right? And that actually, Creative Commons pretty much means public domain. I mean, I don't see no evil, hear no evil, right? So basically all the same thing. So if you try to use pretty lenient licenses, now these are like pictures that you're definitely allowed to use. Now, if you were to use a copyrighted photo, what will you have to do to it to get away with it? Yeah, don't tell anyone. So that's one way. Another way is you can get around copyright, but you got to do some crazy stuff. What is that crazy stuff called? Parity and fair use. So if you guys, like, imagine we wanted to take one of those copyrighted photos, like, why not, just for the sake of it? We'd have to like tint it red and then do like some other crazy stuff, like maybe Photoshop in some clouds on the left side. Then we're solid. And this is actually, I'm seriously completely serious. This is actually how a lot of game creators get around. You'll see like a cool 2D asset pack. Like, oh, this is some cool like enemy RPG monsters. They're copyrighted. I have to pay 20 bucks for it. No. Edit a couple pixels and then, you know, mainly keep the style. Fair use actually applies to this. There are court cases. So as long as you edit something enough, you're pretty much in the clear. So what happens a lot of times to, I feel like introductory game programmers is that they go out there and they're like, copyright everything I have to pay for. It's going to cost me 200 bucks to make a game. Not really. You can make stuff with copyrighted materials and just edit them later on the road, or you can not even edit them and just make sure you don't publish it or sell it for money, and you're still actually pretty safe. Yeah, never make money off copyrighted stuff, or otherwise you're gonna, yeah, I'll probably never see you again. You'll probably be probably in Alcatraz or something, I don't know. But lawyers go hard on copyright. But so like Wikipedia usually has free images. So if you guys go and you just save a random, okay, hopefully Karina, yeah, those are normal images. And you just save these in the downloads then. Yeah. Okay, so.
Have a giant extension cable tomorrow
Extension cable for what?
for power adapter.
Couple of outlets up here. There's one right here if you want to sit right there.
You know, I'm good.
Okay. So you guys got a beautiful sky photo downloaded? You guys following along? All right. Yeah, you can try getting a pixel sky. Probably come out a little bit better than this, but just for sakes, we can just get that pixel sky. Now we actually want to put it in our scene. So how do you guys think we import an asset into our Unity game? Drag and drop. I love that because drag and drop is like the easiest.
Import.
I mean,
That way you can show the right metadata as well.
yeah. So import new asset, like, yeah, but like this looks like it's from 2003. Like, I don't, just drag and drop. Yeah, they don't update many things. So if we go to our file manager, we can just drag in, literally just, you see dragging into the scene, and you can drag it right in the scene. I would definitely advise against that because it's going to do two things. I'll show you what it does. So if we drag it down here, what dragging it into a scene will do is it will actually drag it down here as well as drag it in there. And you can see, wow. So it'll be doing double duty for you. If we just tried this, if we tried dragging it just directly into the scene, you see it, it puts it right down there and it puts it up there. It does double duty. Usually people don't want that. Usually they want to put things down here. And the reason you want to drag it into your assets folder is because, what do you guys think the bane of all little Unity game programmer people are? Yeah, so what do you think this all is supposed to be? Yeah, so are any of you guys OCD or anything like that, ADHD? Hopefully, because we need to be when we're game programming. You guys are gonna, literally when you start making a game, you're gonna have so much stuff down here. Pictures, files, scripts, literally everything's just cluttered down here. And everyone makes this mistake. Just organize your files, okay? Just make like a scripts folder, miscellaneous art folder, stolen art folder, whatever you wanna do. So just drag in your photo into your scene. And what you're gonna see is that it's actually, the camera's on it right now. And we can actually go to game and we can see, wow, so game in the top left, that's game view. That lets us see what the camera's seeing in the game. So if we switch between scene and game view, the game is actually showing what the player is looking at in the game right now, okay? So if we were to move, maybe the camera is only seeing half of our little background. What do you guys think would happen? Yeah, we're all, so that they're gonna have like some weird little bugs in their game. So you're gonna uninstall your game in 2 seconds. So, yeah, but so this is where actually a concept called hierarchy comes in. So in the top left, remember we had the camera and the sky. So what happens if we want this background? Imagine we want the background to always be behind the camera, right? No matter how we move the camera left and right, we want the background to stay on it. How do you guys think we can figure that out in literally one click?
Like a parallax?
Kind of. All I want is the background and the camera to move together so they never lose track of each other. Group them, okay? How do we group them together? Yeah. So yeah, this is what a hierarchy is. Think of your kings and queens, right? What we've done is we've dragged our little king here as the main camera, and our peasant, unfortunately, is dragged along with him. You can think of like the Egyptians, like they throw all the servants in the grave, right? These are the servants being dragged along. And so actually the words they use for this are parents and child. And so you can think of how parents like take their children with them. So the blue sky here is a child of the main camera. So now when we move the main camera, what happens? They both move, right? So the parent brings his children with them, right? Very, very good parent. Oh yeah, that's the next thing. So what happens when the child moves without the parent? The child, yeah, so the child can run away from the camera. There's no restrictions on this. And you would have to do some pretty weird setup to make the child and the parent like rely on each other and nobody controls the other. So that's why hierarchy exists. And so we're put like that. And so instantly in 2 seconds, right, we just group them inside of each other and we automatically have a camera and we have that moves around. You gotta be careful when you're clicking on these things. But so if we click on main camera, we move it left and right now, the camera always moves with the background. Okay, now say we want a player in our game, right? So the first thing we do is we go grab a player, right? Player sprites, hopefully nothing bad. Okay, now here are sprite maps. Sprite maps are incredibly insane, but for right now, we can just grab like any, like I'm sure this one's copyrighted, but just educational purposes, right? That's always what you say. But so we can just grab a sprite like this. This guy looks like he's from Metroid something. Yeah, but save image as, right? Yes, but so yeah, when you guys start doing Unity more, you'll become the masters of save image as and other tools. But so if we drag in the player now to our scene, remember you always want to drag it in the bottom first, and then we drag it into our scene. So now we have a cool little, yeah. So now we have a cool little character in our scene. And so in our game, right, in our game view, we can see that he's popped up and we can just move him around. If we move him around in the scene, we can move him like maybe to the right side and you'll see he pops up in the right side. Now, so how do you guys think we start moving the player around like how an actual game would move a player around? What do you think the trick to it is? If we can move him around just using like his vectors right here, or his little float values that we have in the top right. Because if you notice what happens when we do this, move him left, you see what happens to the X coordinate up there? Yeah, so how do you guys think we're gonna start making a movement system for this little character? Yeah, we increment the X, and so what are we gonna increment the X on though? Like what happens? On what? Yeah, a script. So, but like a person presses what and what happens? This is what you gotta think about when you're making games. Person presses WASD, you know, your arrow keys, and it starts moving around. Okay. So I'm running out of time, but I actually have a script. I can just drop it in the Discord chat. But basically what the script looks like, and don't be scared, okay? When I right click here, a lot of things are gonna pop up, okay? So if you right click in the bottom, oh my God, this is like the worst experience ever. Try never to right click in the bottom. Yeah. It's a lot. But okay, a good thing is that you're never ever going to use like this entire bottom half, because unless you do. But so usually the only part that you're using when you're right clicking down here is right up here. It says create, and then we can start creating all kinds of things. Now, if we wanted to make our player move around and we said we needed a script, what do you guys think we need to create? C# script. Okay. So visual scripting, that's Unreal. All right, we stay away from Unreal. So C# script, right? And we would name this script like movements or something silly like that, okay? Yeah, they do have visual scripting.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Okay, so okay. So what happens when you make a script is it's going to automatically compile every single time. It's actually really annoying because you make like a slight change to a script, it compiles your entire project again. It might take you 10 minutes, might take you 2. This is why we use Unity. So what happens is when you make a script, and you can just double click on it down here. But the first thing we want to do is we want to actually attach the script to something, right? If we have a script in just our assets folder, what do you guys think that script is doing? Nothing, right? It's just sitting there. It's like a picture that we haven't used or anything like that. So what we want to do is we want to drag it and we want to put it on the thing that we want. So if we drag this script and we put it on our player, right? Our player being Tyoma, or let's just name him player, right? And you can change names at the top right. You can also right click over here and change the name right there. So we have a movement script on a player. You can see it's attached right here. If you ever go to your player, just you can drag it on them anyway. Everything about Unity is dragging. So we want to double click our script, open it a little bit. Hopefully it opens.
It opens out, so it's just on the.
Loading. Karina's laptop is slow. Oh, it's down there. You're right. Okay. So Visual Studio Code is like the de facto standard for like Unity programmers. Visual
Studio.
Visual Studio is what tends to open. Don't get me wrong, VS Code is the correct answer.
VS Code should be the correct answer. Okay, I recommend.
I personally like VS Code more. It runs better on my end
Yeah.
than Visual Studio regular does.
So Visual Studio Regular is like a whole platform by Microsoft to make EXEs. We're not making EXEs, like we're making Unity games. So you want to have Visual Studio Code, hopefully. It's a smaller, more lightweight version. And so this is what a script looks like by default in Unity. So what do you guys think a start and an update method are? Oh, yeah, it says it right there. So the start is called before the first frame update. If you guys don't know what frames are, right, your game runs at 60 frames a second or more if you're making cool games, I guess. But so start is only called once every single time. So what do you guys think you want to put in start script? Or just like the start function?
Initialization logic.
Yeah, like we want to initialize like silly stuff like, oh, player health is like 10 or like a player size is 5, right? So usually the start script is where we want to start initializing stuff. Now the update script, what do you guys think the update does? It calls itself every single second. Well, how long is it? Frame. So why do you guys think Ninja has such an advantage when he plays Fortnite? Yeah, exactly. But so what happens, they actually have anti-cheating, but if yeah, but so yeah, but so the faster hertz you have, the faster your game is going to run. And so a problem everyone has when they make their first game is that you have a cool guy with a gaming laptop, 240 hertz. He tries running your game. It's running everything 240 times a second instead of 60. And you test it on 60 because you have a small laptop and he has the big boy Acer Predator, etc. So we can get around that, but just for right now, know that it's called once per frame. And that's actually going to be a little bit of an issue when we need to start frame balancing on people that maybe have stronger laptops or slower laptops. So update. So if we were to say console.log, or it's not, I'm coming from JavaScript. So debug.log is how we start debugging things in Unity. And so we can just say a hey right here. And debug.log is honestly the best way we can start figuring out what's going on. And let's do a update. So what do you guys think is going to happen if we just have like these debug statements in here? We have one debug statement in the start. We said it was for initialization. It's only going to happen once, right? So how many times is that debug start going to print? And how many times is this update going to print? Oh my God, it's going to keep on going. This is going to go on over and over and over again. But so Control S, hopefully you guys know your keybinds, automatically saves your files. And when you click on Unity, it compiles. Yeah, hopefully you guys have fast computers because compiling takes a while. So if we were to go to console right here in the bottom left, I told you this was an important tab because this is how you'll keep track of how your game logic is going along. And you click play. Or what are we going to see, guys? What do you think? update. Oh my God. But if you can't tell though, anyone counting how many times it's happening per second? It's happening roughly around however many FPS or hertz, basically, that Karina's getting on her laptop right here. So, I mean, if you're feeling interested and bored, you can actually go and count up like the seconds and see how many times. But I'm telling you, if you just put an FPS counter in the top right, you'll know, oh, I'm getting 60 of these per second, etc. Now, I'm running a little bit into Karina's workshop because I got sidetracked. But what we want to do in the update function, like pretend we want to make our player move. How do you guys think? We said we wanted like on input, right? We wanted like the W key or the S key, right? What do you think? Okay. Wow, Karina doesn't have it. Oh, unfortunate. So there's actually something awesome that writes that code for us. Have you guys ever heard of anything that might write the code for you? Because imagine you're going to be writing this code 100,000 times, right? You want to memorize what input.getAccess is. Are you sure? GitHub Copilot. There it is. Okay. Yeah. Oh, kind of plagiarism, but sort of plagiarism. But oh my God, really? Okay. Well, for making a game, you want to be using the tools that make your life the easiest. Okay. And so you can either go to Unity forums and say, or just Unity, how to make player movement, right? But this just is a little silly because every single time you want to play a movement script or shooting script, right, you're searching up how to do it. And I'm sure you could try figuring out how to do it using variables and logic, but if it's been done 100,000 times before by 100,000 different people, why are you doing it again? Unless you're just trying to learn, I guess. Maybe learning is good for you, but if you're trying to make a game, usually, and this is what happens, in game jams, you're not reinventing the wheel in a game jam. You're not coding out everything unless that's a strict requirement. So what you do is you go to like some scripting and you say, oh, where's your code at? Oh wait, they took pictures of their code. I can't copy it. Oh wait, it's not a picture. All right, yeah, you just copy it. All right. And so this seems like a pitfall that when you go copy code, right? But actually it's the thing that most people do when they start learning Unity. And the thing is, there's an easier way than copying code. And it's what my friend over there mentioned, the people who are getting sued. GitHub Copilot, it basically goes and auto copies code from the internet for you. And so I really recommend it if you're programming, because what we'll say is, we'll say something silly, like, and we would type in the comments, like, make the player move, right? And we wouldn't have to go anywhere. We wouldn't have to pull up like 10 websites like Google, how to make the player move. It knows that we're in a Unity script and it will literally start recommending you. We'll say if input.getAccess, and it will give you like the entire, it will start auto completing this for you. So if you are doing this wrong in any way, which I'm sure I'm doing it wrong right away, it will literally fix it for you. And so in terms of making your life easier, I would definitely pick this up. It says free trial. How do you guys think you can get around that? Don't worry, it's not illegal. So the University of Texas gives you all free GitHub Pro accounts. So that's something to take advantage of, because GitHub is something we will cover in the Game Jam workshop next week, because GitHub is what you use to actually make your games, and you'll literally start working with people. And plus, if you're doing anything coding at all, you're going to be using GitHub for like the next 20 years. Like they've been using it for like the last 10, so I don't see why not.
You can use it to store your, you can use it to store game projects.
Yeah.
I actually did that for Unreal Project once.
Such a bad idea.
I mean, the project was only like 45 gigabytes. It actually somehow fit.
Only like 45 gigabytes.
Hey man, each individual file was less than the individual file limit, so it fits.
Oh yeah, okay, so yeah, interesting to note, the individual file limit on GitHub is 50 megabytes per file. So you guys are actually doing pretty well if you're staying within that limit.
No, technically it's 5 gigabytes.
Per file?
Yeah.
I think that's per repository. Per file, it's 50.
You can get up to 5 gigabytes per file.
You must be using GitHub LFS, bro.
Yep.
But yeah. But,
Still technically GitHub.
so you guys, I'll be pasting a movement script in the Discord for you to play with. But basically, what you have to start doing is, I don't want to say use my code, but I'll post the code and you're going to see like a bunch of input.get access. It's going to say W and it's going to say something along the lines of like transform. It's going to say something like this, plus equals new, why is it caps lock? New vector 2. So it's going to have something like this. Now, do you guys, if I were to plus equals a new vector 2, who's confused, right? What does that mean? So what does that mean we're doing, right? Anyone have any guesses? Adding, right? And so if my hand is right here, right? And we're adding a vector, where does my hand go? Yeah, so 2, 2, you can think of your Cartesian grid, right? Oh, goes right up there. So if we were to put that in the update script, right? What would we see happen? Yeah, the player would just shoot off the screen in the top right direction. All right. And so that I want to get into components and stuff, but I also want to do art. Sorry, Karina. I'll be posting a recording. Yeah, I'll be posting a recording of what I didn't get to, as well as the script of a player fully moving around. What I want you guys to do to challenge yourself is I want you to actually like switch out all of the assets for everything. So the thing I'm going to give you is you're going to have a player moving around a little bit. And you're going to have like one movement script, right? What I want you to do is I want you to figure out, well, how would you switch out like the character, right? How would you make this character like Mario, for example? How would you switch them out? Yes, right. You can start seeing how these components work, right? And you can say, oh, well, what does this button do? Wait a minute. Now it lets me change the character to another background. or you can have like weird little boxes, right? And so if you import your other sprites, you can start easily switching out sprites and you can start actually fixing the movement code I'm going to give you. And as a challenge, you guys can make jumping, but I'll post that code in a few minutes and you guys can start working through that. I know Karina is going to show us how to do some awesome art. So you can maybe.
So how do you test these programs?
Okay, so how you test them is every single time you just hit Control S. That saves your scene and it saves whatever code you're working on. Hopefully, you also hit Control S in the code one. So Control S, and what you're going to see is that I have bad code right here, right? This has no place in my program, so Unity is going to yell at me. And you'll see red appear at the very, very bottom here. The easiest way to do it is your console window. So your console window, you see, pops up right here, tells you movement scripts, line 17, the column 6. That's what the 6 means. It means how far over you are on the line. Very strange. Never pay attention to that second number unless you have like really long lines. But it's telling us line 19. Wow, we have an invalid expression. Yeah, because we have this. So if we were to fix that, we can get rid of it, save it, and Unity should stop yelling at us, hopefully. If you say, oh, you gotta use Control S. Some laptops like Karina's have a function at the bottom left. But so if you save it with all good code, it shouldn't give you any errors at all. Go away. And then you can click play. In the top right, is play, pause button, and we ignore the one on the right side. Nobody uses that. Not really sure what that other one, oh yeah, it's stop and play. But you can see, you just play it every single time. And you can go and debug stuff like, imagine, for example, you want to make int I equals 5, and you say, I don't know, console.or debug.log I. We would just see 5 like 20 times over and over and over again. And this is how you can start, coding out some stuff. I mean, probably you'd have some health here, and you do some silly little thing on your health. But I want to get into the function S, Control S. I want to get in the art, but I'll show you guys. I'll be sending out a .unity package file. All you have to do is double click it, and it will open up a little thing. Yeah, you guys start moving around your character and play with it. I recommend you play with it because that's how you learn. All right. Yeah, thank you guys so much.
While they're switching over,
I really hope
just
it's
want
not.
to say, if you're looking for a previous year's shirt, come up to me. I'll get your size, your shirt size down, and then at the end of
Oh, yeah,
this,
good.
I'll go down to
Basically,
our
good.
office and see what size we have.
Got, like,
for your
nothing
shirts. That's $10. You
I
can
think you
just
got a
announcement kickoff. But yeah, if you're here to get one of those shirts, let me know and we'll get that. What's up? Yeah, you can do that too. We've got the slides posted.
So one time I thought. Spawning 30 million squared.
Yes, yeah, that's your homework.
I always think you're
Thanks.
Alrighty, shall we get started?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you guys for sticking around for the art workshop. Much appreciated. I think most of y'all saw all this at the beginning, so I'm just gonna skip it. Okay, so this is our overview for the art workshop. I want to get like a feel for the room. So how many of y'all are artists? Okay, okay. How many of y'all have done digital art? Okay, okay. Interesting. Okay. And how many of y'all have made art for games? Okay, that's a good number. It's also nice to see people who are new to that because this is what it's for. So I'm just gonna run through some different game art roles that are in the industry because I think that kind of can shed some light onto what you might do as an artist if you end up making art for games or working on art for the game jam. And then I'll talk about getting started with 2D art, like drawing tablets, drawing software, and then hopefully we'll have enough time for like a little drawing session and we can just chat and have fun. All right, so I'm gonna start from roughly the beginning of the game pipeline where we start with concept artists, and you'll often see a lot of people getting into this pretty early on because it's like, it's like drawing your OCs and things like that. So here we have character concept artists, prop concept artists, environment concept artists. You could divide it up like really small into really niche roles depending on the size of the studio. And you've also got like people who do like paint overs of like other people's like 3D art, and you're like, this looks more like the concept now, so do it like this. So kind of in the realm of concept art. And then as we move along, I also have resources on this slide, on this Google Slides, and I'll share it in the workshops resources channel in the Discord. So if you have the workshops role, which you can get in the roles channel, you should be able to see it. Moving along, and I guess this is kind of like anywhere in the pipeline at this point, but I wanted to talk a bit about UI art. And so UI is basically user interface. You often hear it paired with like user experience, UX. But in this case, you'll see like all of these icons, these buttons, these like meters and like things at the top, text boxes, the fonts, that's all user interface. So a user interface artist would design these graphics, might select a font or make a font, and draw these icons like you can see in the Cult of the Lamb art. These are all different like icons for the doctrines. So yeah. All right, and then we've also got key art or illustration. So if you're really into rendering, this is a role for you. So you might see this in marketing or for like loading screens in games. Here's another example. And then, okay, and then we've got 2D character artists. So you might see them doing things like character portraits for like dialogue in games, or like in Ace Attorney. And then we've got 2D animation, which is always fun. Y'all should play Unbeatable, it's a good game. Yeah. And 2D animation for games is usually different than 2D animation for films or for movies or TV shows, because you have to be very like responsive to player inputs. So usually like a swing or like a kick would be a lot faster in a game than it would be for a movie. You've got very limited number of frames because players are impatient and they just want to kick and punch and make things explode. So, so this is an example of a 2D animator doing not really 2D game animation, but cinematics. So like for promos, also loading screens and like marketing art, they'll do like cinematic art and animation. Okay. I also highly recommend these two talks. They're really good. They're by one of the animators on the Skullgirls team, which is a 2D fighting game. Very informative on just like what makes making animations for games different than like cinematics. And then we've also got VFX art, and that's what really makes like games feel like good to play. And in this example, it'll be, you can see like all the explosions, the dust when the barrels pop out of the ground, the scars left on the ground after the barrels explode. That's all visual effects. And they're 2D also, even though it looks like a 3D game. What is this? Oh, okay. And then I also wanted to talk about tech art. So how many of y'all are programmers in this room? Okay, yeah. Tech art is something that sounds like it's an artist role, but really it's kind of like both programming and art in one. And basically what a tech artist does is they make implementing and making art for games more streamlined for the artists. So you're basically making tools. So this is one that I use personally for Photoshop, which I think is really nice. And here you can see my little screen recording. I've got my animation set up in Photoshop. These are like the little frames of this animation. And then here you can see it being played. And this script will make a sprite sheet for me. So you can see sprite sheet generator. I can input the number of frames that I've got, and then sort of what like pattern I want the frames to be in, or what grid size. And I'll take each frame, bring it into this document, and sort of pop them into this sprite sheet. Really handy dandy tool. I like it because I don't like to bring in like 12,000 PNGs into Unity because that's annoying. Whereas I can just like bring in this one PNG and I'll have the whole animation on it. Okay. So this is like, that was kind of like more like AAA big studio game art jobs, but for indie game studios, it's kind of different. You do everything. And this is kind of what you might experience doing a game jam, is where you'll do like character art and animation and background art and illustrations and UI. And maybe you'll share that role with somebody else. But so what might this look like? So this is a game jam that I worked on like 2 years ago. It's kind of old, but I think it like kind of shows you the different stages of art and roles of art that you can see in this game. So here's like a little gameplay video. You've got this UI bubble at the bottom with like this little guy who would tell you how to play the game. And it's kind of overwhelming. The gameplay is kind of fast paced, but you've got these little characters that you can move around. And you can switch between them, but when you don't have a character selected, like the other ones are controlled by the boss. So you can see things like these health bars are UI, and then you've got like these little indicators and stuff. Okay, I will break this down. I can. Okay, so this is what I started with. This was what the programmer of this game jam handed off to me. Very simple. And you know, in some games, this is where you might end up, and that's fine. Like this is playable game, you know? But you kind of get the gist of it. Like these are like the borders of the game. This is the playable area, this blue square. You've got like this little box for the approximate player size, box for the approximate boss size. Then these like boxes for approximate sizes of like the text for the different characters. This is really useful for when you're doing a project with multiple artists, because for one, you can get a consistent resolution for all your images. So you like send this off to your artists and they take this canvas, drop it into their artist like software of choice. And then they can just like use this as reference for how big or small they'll make their sprites. And once you import it into the game, everything's the right size, and you don't have like really thick lines that are like blurry versus like really thin lines and like super large images for your game. Neat little tip. So that sort of evolved into this. So I started with really rough concept art. This was a 48-hour game jam, so I didn't have a lot of time. So it's like little doodles in my sketchbook, very simple stuff. Okay, I put this in because it's UI, but let's move on. Okay, I worked with another artist for this game. He did the background art and some of the UI, and also our like one piece of like illustration art. So this was like our little marketing art piece, you could say. He also did like a little comic that was like part of the cutscene. So this is also like illustration art. These are some 2D character art pieces that I did for the game. These are like for when characters had dialogue, they had their little like character portraits. And then there's some animation, very simple, because I only had 48 hours to do like a whole bunch of different animations. This is only 4 frames, very simple. And even if they like move up or move down, it's still like they're still like technically walking sideways, but you know, that's okay. There's some sprite sheets that I had for the animations. You can see that like I sort of embedded the VFX into these character animations with like the dust clouds, the lightning. The same with this one. And here's like one of the VFX animations that didn't end up getting put in the game because we were on crunch time, but that's an example of what 2D VFX might look like. Do you have any questions? I think I went through it really fast, but yes.
So what do you use to make the sprite? Just Photoshop?
Yeah, so for this project, I used Photoshop. It's not my like the software I would recommend, but it works because animation is a little clunky in it. But I'll talk about different software choices later down, so that might be of interest. Any other questions? Yeah. Oh, Sprite is like for pixel art. I personally don't use Sprite, but it is very well known, and I know a lot of people that stand by it. So, good choice. Anything else? Okay. So let's get into actually making some art. So let's talk about hardware things. So types of drawing tablets. Oh, I actually have. Okay, so okay, get this out. So you've got like a couple different options when it comes to drawing tablets. Of course, if you're doing pixel art, you don't need a drawing tablet at all. Like a mouse would do just fine. But you've got things that are like digitizer pen tablets, which is a fancy name for like a drawing tablet that doesn't have a screen on it. These are usually cheaper because it costs money to put screens in things. And then you've also got like monitor or display tablets like this one down here. You'll often hear Wacom Cintiqs, like that's a big name that people throw around. They're also very expensive. And then kind of like moving up in the price range group, you've got like tablet PCs, which are like Microsoft Surface is, and you've got like smart tablets, like a little iPad, right? So yeah, this is like different brands that you can have drawing tablets in, like iPad, Wacom or Wacom or however you want to pronounce it. It's usually like a more expensive brand. And at this point, drawing tablets are kind of all the same. So I wouldn't vouch for like one brand or another. Huion and XP Pen are kind of like the cheaper of the competitors. And they actually have like display tablets that are pretty cheap. They're like 200 to 250 for like a 13-inch display tablet, which is really cheap considering I got this tablet for like 300, but this was like 8 years ago. So times have changed, you know, things are getting cheaper. Yeah, let's see. Okay, so this is like my little table of different drawing programs. So starting with like the big name Photoshop, it is paid and you have to pay like monthly or annually or something. It's kind of stinky. It does have animation. That's how you saw before, like the little froggy animation before. But it is kind of clunky. But there's a lot of resources out there. So if you already have Photoshop or if you happened to find Photoshop for free lying around. It's a not bad option. They also have like lots of features that other drawing softwares typically don't have, like just like I think they have like a 3D thing and like different like filters that can like change perspectives on images. Like you might not use that for game dev, but like things to keep in mind if you end up using Photoshop for more than just drawing. And then you've got Photo P, which is like a Photoshop counterpart that looks exactly like Photoshop, but it's in the browser. Let me go. Like if you're familiar with Photoshop at all, this kind of looks like it. Oops, I wanted to make a new one. New project. Sure. Oh, where's the? What am I looking at? Okay, yeah, this looks very familiar, right? So lots of functionalities that Photoshop also has. You've got like all your typical artsy tools, but it doesn't have animation in it, so that's just something to keep in mind. Let's go back to this. You got Clip Studio Paint, which is paid one-time fee. There's usually like really big sales during the summer where you can get it for like $20, which is pretty good. And they've got animation in it, but I think for like the cheaper version, it's like 24 frames. But if you pay for like the EX version, which I think is like probably like double the price, you can get like unlimited frames, and it's also really robust for like making comics and stuff. Metabang is mostly like a mobile application from what I've seen. So if you got like a stylus for your phone, or if you've got like an iPad or something, it's a free option, but it doesn't have an animation feature. You've got Procreate, which is the one that I typically use nowadays. I like it. It works for me. It's not like the most like robust software out there, but it's growing, I guess. It is iOS only, and it's a $10 one-time fee. So things to think about. And then you've got Krita, which is really nice. I would recommend it if you like are just like getting into drawing and you don't want to pay any money. It's like very well built. It's open source. They've got animation in it. I've used it before. It works really well. Yeah, I think you can also like transfer brushes from Photoshop to Krita. So if you have like an artist that you follow that posts their brushes online, you can snatch those and use them in Krita. And then we've got Blender, which is really known for 3D art. And it does have 2D functionalities, but I probably would not choose that as your first choice. I would recommend Krita first, unless you really like Blender, which is cool. Yeah, Blender is nice. Okay. Then for pixel art software, so no need for a drawing tablet or anything fancy. You can just use your mouse. You've got a Sprite, which is paid $20, but like you see like reviews for it on Steam where people are like, it's okay, I guess, but they've got like millions of hours logged on it. So I feel like any pixel artist probably uses a Sprite. There's like other pixel art softwares. I think Pisco is also like in browser, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. And then, oh, nice. Yeah. Pixel Edit is also, I've never actually heard of this one, but it was in the slides that I copied over from last year. So, you know, an option. And then, okay, so, okay, I went through them really fast, so I think we have enough time for a demo. So if y'all have never like touched a digital art software before, it can be kind of daunting. So I just want to like walk through some of the features that they might have before I get into that. Any questions? Because I know I'm talking really fast.
Cheap Android tablet, like drawing.
Yeah.
It's not as good as a Wacom.
if it has like pressure sensitivity, that's usually a good sign that you can make digital art on it. Like if it comes with a stylus, that's yeah, I'd say like finger drawing is really hard. There's artists who do it, but it's like, yeah, I feel like they have learned like from the get-go how to finger draw. So yeah. Okay, I'm gonna draw using my iPad on Procreate. Hopefully I can join the Zoom. Oh, wait. Was I gonna ask? Okay. Oh, okay. I remember. While I pull my softwares up on my iPad and get the screen shared and everything, y'all, for y'all artists or non-artists out there that are interested in coming back to more workshops, what are workshop topics for art that you might be interested in, or like anything that spoke to you? Yeah. Yeah.
Animation, I know how to do those frames.
Yeah.
I barely know.
No, yeah. We could do an animation workshop. Yeah. That's ooh, okay. Color theory. Yeah, I got you. Yeah.
I always see the artists, like they draw like the face, and they draw like the lines, like the curves of the
Mhm.
face. What is that? I don't even know what that
They're
is.
like guidelines. So yeah, it's like helps you get your proportions right. So we could do like an anatomy workshop. Yeah, let's sketching. Okay, yeah. Drawing. Sorry. UI. Okay, yeah. One of our officers, Matt, it has like really good UI like design sense. Bye. Okay. I think I am. Okay. We'll do a little like. Yeah. Oh. Get out of here. Can I pop this up? Okay, nice. So you've got my screen sharing going on. Okay, so I have this, I'm taking a page from Ryan's book and showing you a screenshot of Photoshop within my other drawing program, Procreate, because Procreate's a little different because it's a mobile program, but I think a lot of like the same tools can be found in either one. And I just want to like kind of guide you through like general like drawing program UI that you might find. So biggest thing here is this right here. And this is like your little drawing space. You can draw your funny little characters here. And then you've got your color picker in the corner. The equivalent is this like little circle at the top. You can change your color. Most drawing softwares will have like options for like what kind of color picker you have. So this is like in Procreate, you can see like this is the classic. And you can switch it to like a wheel where you've got like your color wheel that you learned in like elementary school. And then usually you might also find like sliders. So you've got like hue, saturation, brightness, so like dark to light and things like that, or like RGB. and sometimes you'll find CMYK. But I like using the classic because I started in Photoshop. And within your color picker, you'll usually find these two squares. Some programs only have one, but this is basically like your primary color, the color that you're drawing with. So right now, if I were in this Photoshop program, I would be drawing with this like black color because that's my primary color, right? And then for some reason the screenshot doesn't have it, but usually they've got like a tab right here, and it would say layers. And you'd have your different layers for your drawing in there. So if you imagine like multiple sheets of like clear plastic, your drawings like live on these like sheets of clear plastic. So as you can see, I've got like layer 1, layer 2, layer 3 here. This is the equivalent of the layer menu. So I can like toggle these on and off, right? And you can see that there's like, similar to Unity, there's like a hierarchy to them. So things at the bottom, this is a little different than Unity, but things at the bottom are like further away from the camera, you could say, while things at the top are closer. So if I move this below this like white screen that I made to cover up this frog picture, it'll disappear. But it's really still there. It's just underneath this like white screen, right? Okay, and then along this side, you'll have your toolbar. And these are like the different tools that you can use on Photoshop. Usually you'll basically just use like this one and like the eraser. So like your drawing pencil and your eraser, and then like there's like paint bucket tools and things like that. If you've used MS Paint, this is basically the same, but you've actually got layers, which MS Paint does not. Yeah, and then you've got like a bunch of different selection tools. Depending on the program, you might just have like a rectangle, right? Got like freehand selections, things like that. All right, let's draw a little. I think that's basically the basics, right? You can make lines, you can erase them. Oh, you can change sizes of like your brushes. In Procreate's on this like sidebar right here. But in Photoshop and most other drawing programs, you'll either have like a brushes window when you select like your brush tool, or it'll pop up on this top bar right here. So it'll be like size, and opacity will change like how see-through your brush strokes are. So, oops, let me make this smaller. So you've got like full opacity, and like 50% is like kind of transparent, and then the lower down you go, it's like the less you can see it, right? Okay. So let's draw. Okay. Do y'all have any drawing doodle requests or any things that y'all want to draw and chat about as we wrap up this workshop? That went by really quick.
Frog.
Frog?
Yes,
Frog?
frog.
Okay. We've got a little frog friend. Gonna give him some cheeks. And then some things that you'll find pretty useful as you like get into a drawing program. I really like there's like adjustment tools that you'll find in most drawing softwares. If it doesn't, then that kind of sucks, and maybe you should use a different drawing software. But usually you'll find it in like layer adjustments, and then it'll be in that window. In this case, I'll use like hue, saturation, brightness. So depending on the layer that you have selected, you can change like the hue or like the saturation of these colors. So if you like choose a color, but you don't want to like color pick, you want to like see the color change within your artwork, you can use like hue saturation sliders and get a better feel for what the new color might look like in context, right? So I'm gonna change this cheek color. Oops. Make it more saturated. Okay, nice. And you'll notice that I have separated my layers kind of by my line art, by like my primary flat color, and then by like just like additional colors. You can organize your layers however you want. I know people who draw completely entirely on one layer. Usually that lends itself for more like rendered art styles, so things that are like very like realistic looking or more painterly looking. And then you've got like people who put like every little bitty thing on a layer, which might work for them, but for me it's like too many layers to scroll through and make sense of. So let's put this guy aside. Let me think of other things that I wanted to talk about. Let's see. Any other drawing requests? Yeah. Oh, questions. It depends. So when I do animations, sometimes it's really helpful to name layers. For the most part, I find it kind of tedious, especially like when you're in the groove of things, like you just want to draw, you don't really want to like type out things, even if it might take like a second or two. But if it helps you like organize your work, then by all means, like name your layers. But yeah, I saw another hand up somewhere. Yeah. Yeah. So I have some that are like Procreate specific, but I think they can also like they also work in Photoshop and other drawing softwares. Let's see. So I usually use this shell brush, which came with Procreate, but I think you can probably find like a Photoshop equivalent if you just like Google Procreate shell brush Photoshop. And then what else? I have these brushes by an artist called Marmistry. I really recommend their art if you don't know who they are. Very cool stuff. I like them because they've got like nice effects and stuff. And then this is Matt. I usually can't remember his last name because it's like German or something like that. It's really long. But he usually does like watercolor-esque artwork. So these are kind of more like gentle brushes that I like to do for more watercolor-esque drawings, right? But I think for starting out, I honestly recommend just like a solid round brush, kind of like, let's go back to, these are all like the generic brushes that Procreate comes with. Where is it? Airbrushing? Okay, yeah. This is probably also like the first brush that you'll have like selected if you just open up Photoshop. But it's just like a simple like circle. And depending on like your pressure, like the opacity goes in and out, right? I think it's really good for beginners because it's like you don't get overwhelmed by so many like brush options. And also I feel like you tend to pick up like art fundamentals better because you're focusing on like more on like the color and the values and things like that rather than how this brush looks or how it feels, right? If that makes sense. Yeah. Any other questions? Any other drawing requests? Yeah. 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 Okay. Okay, I'll stick by this hard round brush. Ooh. Sorry, I'm just now seeing the Zoom chat, but yes. Yeah, animation for character sprites, VFX attacks. I assume that's for different workshop topics down the line. But yeah, I think I do want to do an animation workshop that kind of covers all those things. Luckily, like the workshops, I'll have I think 2 hours for them each, and I'll only have 2 workshops this semester, but I'll try and fit all these things if I can. Wait, don't actually know what fish look like. We'll make do. My go-tos are usually sardines, so do a little sardine. Trying to get these like reflective colors that they get. How do I go about visualizing what to draw? That's a good question. I think especially like when you're starting out, I think that might be like a really hard challenge. Is like sort of imagining what you're drawing before it gets on the paper. Truthfully, it just gets better or easier as you draw more. But I think also just like doing like sketching explorations, if that makes any sense. Just like sort of like exploring different avenues of what your drawing might look like before you commit to something. Yeah, that was like a very vague answer. I hope that helped a little bit. Got a little fishy who is looking very intently. Oh, nice. Okay, it's not very accurate to what a fish looks like, but it will. Okay. Got a request for a link drawing, so I'm gonna do a link drawing. Yes, I know. I don't know if y'all saw the Nintendo Direct today, but yes. I have yet to play Hollow Knight, so I can't. I'm sorry. I could probably like draw off of a reference image. Yeah. No, but yeah, I'm very excited for Breath of the Wild. Which brush am I on? For Breath of the Wild. I guess it's the Tears of the Kingdom, which doesn't really roll off the tongue very well, but yeah, I hope the name like kind of I warm up to it, because it's like right now I'm just like, oh man. it's a mouthful, but yeah, it does. Good. Link is a boy, but Link can be any gender that you want. I think so. Honestly, I wouldn't be surprised.
Don't pay for that one yet. Don't pay for that one yet. But this one can be a separate thing.
And then Zelda,
It's also the first one you can
How'd you know?
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for coming. Honestly, having like a fixation is like the best way to get good at art. It's just like you'll just draw them forever and it's like you'll learn so much. I also haven't played Celeste, I'm sorry. Eventually I'll be able to. Thanks for coming. Oh, thank you. Yeah, I'm sorry to say.
I'm not particularly an artist, so like, I'm not gonna leave quite yet. I still gotta check for other shirts anyway. Oh, yeah, but let me go ahead and get your size. Yes, that one. Right, makes sense, makes sense. Gotcha. Yeah.
I would like to order a shirt.
We have, like these other ones are the ones we have. We might have some personified ones, and we might have like one or two EGaDS.
Can I get, how much should they cost each?
$10 each. What size? Well, they pretty much don't pay until I come back to verify that we've got your sizes. But I'll write with those down and I'll just let you know. The video is the one that's going to be selected to, but we'll see. Cool. Got it.
Yeah, well, it's all that.
I'm gonna go ahead and go down and check those shirts. Yeah, let's just so that we have probably some personified and then maybe like one or two EGaDS. Yeah, and that one's coming. Okay, great.
Yes.
Yeah, no, you're right. That's a good idea.
I want to do shirt though.
I want to brush your shirt. I sure more. There's a new song.
It's a new song.
That's
not a new song.
That's Michael.
I love this all up on white.
Oh, they just love white.
This is Procreate. Unfortunate name, but that's what it's called. It's iOS only. I use my iPad, but it is $10. Yeah, just pretty affordable for a drawing application, I'd say. No, that was Chloe. Yeah, yeah.
I will also be able to confirm that my payment went through for like the dues or whatever.
Sure.
Okay.
I can verify that. So let me do the t-shirts first. If you're gonna stick around for that, I'll check whenever I'm handing out the t-shirts.
Oh, you're right.
It's Paris wet.
Is there what? Yeah. If it's raining,
Like
yeah, exactly.
That's the trailer.
watched.
In Skyward Sword, his hair is more like brown. Yeah, it is so. That was the first Zelda game that I finished.
I have only played
Yeah.
Breath of the Wild and the Link's Awakening remake.
Oh, yeah.
Twilight Princess.
I want to play. I
Aw.
want to play Ocarina of Time with Linker and Twilight Princess.
Yeah, I've like started a lot of games and haven't finished. Like I started Twilight Princess because I had like the Wii game, but it was so dark and I really could not see it on my TV. Yeah.
Here it is. I don't have to wait for it anymore. I can just they want like you know like
Wait, is it you? You got a shirt design on it?
It's Amori, yeah.
Amori.
Yes.
Oh, wait.
Were you there at kickoff?
I was.
You should have been.
We had pizza.
It came like an hour late. Cool. Okay.
It
so
was
I got
still
this
there.
on-
Which is better than we can say for past events that we've had.
I'm gonna go ahead and go down there, see about our backlog of, or our backstock of old shirts. Do I have any more requests that I need to get in before I go? So,
Do you have any shirts that
we can sure love it. Yeah, Legend of Zelda or?
Can I see the first one?
Oh, no. I already- I can see it.
Describe it.
I gotta go way up here. You get controller. Just listen to me a few minutes. It is hand holding controller and stuff, the black and white with the sort of the persona like dialogue box things.
Yeah.
That's got that coming up. Let me see if I can find it here.
I'm thinking either like the persona or.
Sure. Well, the Immortal comes with dues, so if you think dues.
Oh, right.
Okay.
I did have you did.
Oh,
So you're
how does
gonna
this
get that one whenever we get the ship.
Oh,
I
I
don't
don't-
it.
No, you haven't looked for a while. You turned around for 5 minutes.
Okay,
Oh, wait.
cool. I'll look and see. What's up?
I'm not in Austin this semester.
We can ship you yours if you want. Okay. Anything for you. Where are you going, Jared? Why are you not in Austin?
I'm trying to go to Belgium.
Wow.
Oh wait, you guys don't have to ship to Belgium.
Oh, yeah, so. Still try. It's whatever, we'll work it out. Okay, cool. Any more requests before I go and check our back stuff? Cool. I'll be back with however many shirts I can get for these sizes.
Yeah, hopefully other workshops are a bit more structured. I figured this one would be like a little gentle intro to art, you know, there's a lot to cover. I can't do like animation in our intro one, so stick around, that'd be cool. Yeah, that would be a good, next time would be the game jam workshops. So it might be more of like I guess like game jam specific, but I mean couldn't hurt to bring, right? So yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, of course. Bye, thanks for coming. Yeah.
In your opinion, is pixel art like strictly easier than like traditional art?
I think it depends what kind of pixel art you do. I find it difficult because I started off with like traditional drawing. But like a lot of like the same like art concepts still apply. And then there's like other like pixel art specific things. Like you shouldn't have like yeah, okay. You shouldn't have like, if you have a line, oops, sorry, this brush is not meant for this. You got like multiple pixels for like a line, right? You shouldn't have like pixels that like go like this or something where it's like doubling up when it should be like a single pixel line. I don't know how to describe it, but there's like lots of like different things that you need to consider for pixel art that you don't usually have to for like traditional art. But I think like the size sort of helps people like understand it better because you have like more restrictions and like you can only have like this much area of drawing and that kind of thing. If that makes any sense.
So if my goal was to make really good pixel art, do you recommend just making pixel art or starting with like?
Honestly, you could just do pixel art. Yeah.
I have a question.
Yeah.
So when you did the skin tone
Mm-hmm.
and it went over the hair and over the clothes,
Yeah.
you're using multiply, right?
Oh, so I'm actually just using, I did it all on one layer, right? So I guess like when you, could you like describe more of like what you,
So you did the skin
mm-hmm.
and it went over the hair.
Yeah,
And it went over the clothes.
yeah, like this,
And then
right?
you colored over it.
Yeah,
But it replaced it. It replaced the old color with the new color.
yeah. So when I'm working within the same layer, if I draw over like a color that I've already got placed down, right? It'll just like replace it. It's gone now. Like it doesn't exist. There's no like adding or subtracting, right? If that makes any sense. So like if you want to imagine like a layer in a drawing program with like a bunch of like mini layers, every time you draw a brush stroke, that's like a new layer and then it like collapses and that's a new like finished piece, if that makes sense, right? Yeah, I usually keep my line art separate. And oh, something this is a little scary. Something that I haven't talked about yet is like layer styles or layer modes. And so you can see like this N next to this checkbox. This like shows up all the different like layer styles that you can put it in. And this is probably what you were thinking about is like multiply. Where you can see it has like a kind of different effect than normal does. Normal, like the colors just sit directly on top of each other. They don't interact with layers underneath it. But if you do multiply, there's like some algorithm that the program does where I think it literally like multiplies some of the color values. So you'll notice that like this color that I'm picking here is like different than, is different than the color of the lines when they're over the skin tone versus the color of the lines when they're over the blue. You can see it's like much more desaturated. So people usually like to have line art layers on multiply or like linear burn because it has like more interesting colors that interact with the color layers underneath versus when you just do normal, it kind of looks a bit more flat, if that makes sense. Yeah. I usually like to play around with layer modes to kind of give a different tone to my drawings. So I'm gonna merge this like sword down to my colors, my color layer. And I
Are
use,
these options like Procreate options or are they like?
they're across all drawing programs. So Photoshop will have them. And if like your drawing software is like mediocre, it'll probably have this too. Like basic drawing software should have these. They might be called like slightly different. I know Paint Tool Sci, I think they call add like something different. I forget what. But yeah. And then I think Photoshop and Procreate have more options than other drawing programs. So like these like multiply, darken, color burn, linear burn, and darker color usually, as the name implies, makes the color darker. So I'm gonna start with a normal layer so you can see the true color. You can see this is like exactly the color that I have in my color picker. If I change this layer mode, you'll see it does like funny things depending on what's underneath it, right? And these like options, multiply, darken, color burn, etc., usually darken this layer right here, this purple that I've put down. And then the rest of the options typically lighten them or like change the color in some way. So lighten, screen, color dodge. Sometimes you might have to play with the overall opacity of a layer, like here, right? It might look a little different than just like blaring white. You got add, this also looks a little different. Yeah, that's it.
So this is in the same group as the line layer, then how come it's not affecting the line?
Ah, good question. That's because the line layer is actually, sorry, I should probably name these for sake of clarity. The line layer is on top, right? So if you were like, you could say like the camera is at the very top of this layers stack, right? So the camera is looking down at all these layers. This line art layer is like the first thing it sees, and then anything after that like does not interact with the line art layer, if that makes sense. So this like purple layer that I've been playing around with, like the different layer modes, it only interacts with the things underneath it. So that's why if I bring this up to the line art, above the line art layer, you'll see like these line art lines have become like tinted purple, right? And let me rename line art. Okay, rename color. And then rename layer modes. Okay, so I'm gonna bring this back down to just affect the colors. And then I'll like swipe through the different the rest of the color modes or layer modes that you find, just to give you like an idea. And like as you like get into drawing programs, you'll kind of pick up on what each of them do. So like what I see pretty commonly is, I'm gonna clear this layer, is people will use a multiply layer, which we used for the lines as well. And they'll use them for shadows for like a character. So I'm gonna use this like, I'm gonna use like a reddish purplish color, pretty light, because multiply can be like kind of strong if it's not a light color. So I'm gonna do something a bit brighter. You can see that it sort of like is a bit more gentle than if I were to just like slap like the natural color on top, right? It like integrates with the colors a bit better, I'd say. Oh, and like a general like color theory thing is usually you don't really want to shade with like a direct black, and you don't want to lighten things with a direct white. So what does that mean is, let me turn off my multiply layer right here. I'm just gonna use a normal layer, and I'm gonna use black. Turn down the opacity of my actually no, I'm gonna color pick. So what I mean by like shading with black is in your color picker, right? If you go like directly down, you're like, ah, yes, this is a darker color, it'll be the shadows.
I've got good news for everyone except for you in the back. We did not have any of those in extra large. We do have some larges though, so if that would work, we can get you one of those. All right, cool. Everyone else who requested a shirt from me from the previous year, we got them. So I'll leave right over here. You pay with cash. Got cash. Otherwise, I can just hang on to it until you get one. So I've got a small EGaDS Legend of Zelda. Okay, great. And I'm not gonna look for anything. And yeah, it's 10.
One question.
Yeah.
Large
What with
Legend of Zelda.
gradients? What do you do
Oh.
about gradients?
Yeah, that's a good
Large
question.
Legend of Zelda.
So
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, cool. I'll hold
Listen,
on to this, just
listen here.
come over and I'll get you paid for it.
yeah, I usually
Okay, fantastic.
don't use gradients that much, but when I guess like for shading, it's I don't know how to describe this. It's like, what do you have in mind when you mean like gradients? Is it like a particular art style? Yeah.
I sent it. Someone told me to share.
Wait, so
Oh, okay, I got it,
Just using black.
So
What's the problem with just using black?
So like I'm kind of like following the just using black method right now, right? And if you look at this compared to the multiply layer mode, oops, where's, hold on, this is on a separate layer for some reason. Oh, good, merge down. Okay, if you see like the difference between this and this like the colors kind of work better together. It seems more cohesive. Black usually makes things look kind of flat, kind of icky. I don't know.
Wait, so what color do I use instead of black?
So if you're like directly like picking colors and stuff, I typically, it depends on the colors of your shadows. But that kind of goes into like deeper color theory than I think I could talk about right now.
What about using
But
the same color but darker?
yeah, so usually you would want to go for something a bit more saturated. And then something that kind of like shifts on the color wheel. So for like warm colors, I usually shift closer to red. So I'm in the orange zone. So I'm gonna move the general color closer to red. And that'll be my color. I'm gonna do something a bit more saturated, but oh, it's so dark. Like that. Yeah,
Did you drive here? And if so, can I catch a ride?
I did not drive
Okay,
here. I'm
that's fine.
sorry.
No, that's fine.
But yeah, I'm like, guess it's hard to explain, but you can see like this color kind of matches the skin tone better than just using the darker version of that color. It feels more fleshed out, I guess. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know how to explain it. Does that make sense? Yeah. So like for this blue, I'm gonna bring it closer to these like deeper blues down a hue meter, right? I'm gonna make it darker and more saturated, right? And for this yellow, I'll do the same thing.
That was
And this looks, I think, a little bit better than just like this, right?
Like we had Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild last year. We had Persona the year before that. We had EGaDS this year.
Thank you.
It's a good one.
Thanks for
We
coming.
got a surprising number of them too.
Wait, that's still have some?
Yep.
Save money.
Or spend it. Either way. I mean, again, if you don't buy them, they're just there. So
Thank you.
All
Thanks
the
for
ones from
coming.
before the EGaDS is used, like year.
those ones are like just gone. They're just gone. We have like two of them that we've held on to for promotional purposes. One of them is the Cuphead one, and one of them is EGaDS Cross.
Thank
But
you.
those we don't have any other except for the ones that we use for promotional stuff. Which is garbage, because the entire reason I joined EGaDS all those years ago was to get the Cuphead one. No, I just like the shirt.
Yeah,
I've never played Cuphead. I saw the shirt and I was like, oh, it's so good. I gotta get one.
Maybe one day we'll do like a vote for like which EGaDS shirt should we do an extra run back. Yeah.
We could have done that this year. It's our 25th anniversary.
It's our 25th anniversary.
Yeah, our sponsorship packet says 1998. I
Wow.
mean, not this year, but next year. Because they're 25th.
Yeah.
So like, Squared will be the 25th anniversary celebration.
That's cool. Yeah, yeah.
They're gonna do workshops every week.
No, the department, the department gave us those limits on some stuff, so we're just kind of, we're kind of interleaving them with other stuff, so like, we'll mention it, but like, we're doing them pretty much the 2 middle Tuesdays of every month. So we're expecting probably about 6 to 8 of them per semester. Yeah, it's because of those same limits that you couldn't reserve all the rooms for every week for the semester, they wouldn't allow it.
That rule seemed very tight.
I know, that's what I was saying. I was like, really? Are you kidding me? We used to do like 3 events per week and now you're gonna do this? Yeah, so we interleave all of our other events pretty much except for our very major.
Thank you so
We
much.
interleave those
Thanks for
on Tuesdays,
coming.
And on Thursdays, we always have our Discord dev nights, which again, used to be in person, but now they're always gonna be on Discord because we couldn't reserve.
Oh, wait, is that a gradient layer?
Yeah, so I like to use overlay layers for kind of adding like extra mood to pieces. So this is actually a clipping mask. Let me unclip it. Wait, actually no. Let me change it to normal and then unclip it so it kind
What
of.
does it look like by itself?
So this is what it looks like by itself, right? So I clipped this mask to the color layer. So when I turn off the color layer, it turns off all the clipping masks that I put on top of it. So that's this one right here, right? It's kind of like childing an object to the parent, like in Unity, right? So this only affects, it restricts like the color pixels to whatever's like, to the opacity of whatever it clips to, if that makes sense. It's a clipping mask. Yeah, right? So
We can only master the layer below it.
yeah, so if you have like multiple layers, you can clip multiple of them to the layer below. So I can do my shading layer and also clip it if you saw like the little difference between these like edges, right? Bing. Yeah, I'll keep it there. So what an overlay layer does, it kind of like imparts like the hues without like changing like different, like how bright or dark a value is too much. So I have like these like yellows, reds, and let me show you exactly what it looks like alone, right? So got like a yellowy, reddish, bluish gradient right here. And these colors, oh, it's so scary. These colors kind of like affect the drawing beneath it. So you want to see before and after. It's very slight and very subtle, but I think it sort of like sets the tone of the drawing a bit more, if that makes sense. You can also do like very intense things with it. So let me show you the art that I made for Mega Micro.
All right, I gotta go get your bus. Good
Oh,
job. You tear it
thank
down whenever
you.
you're done.
Will
Yeah,
do.
Yeah.
So, okay, so we've got like a little frog animation from Mega Micro. All of these layers have this overlay applied to it. So if I turn it off, it looks kind of dull, kind of darker, right? If I turn it back on, you can see it kind of gives it more color, more vibes without like me going into every single layer, like painting these like variations, these subtle variations in the color and tone. So it let me do like very flat colors in the beginning, and then just like applying this overlay layer gives me a bit more, I guess, depth to it. If that makes sense. Yeah. Okay, I think, does anybody have any questions before I tear down? No? Okay. All right.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming. All right. Janelle Rabin. I think I'm going to close the Zoom, but thank you for sticking around and hanging out. There's a, oh, yeah. It went a bit long, but we're just hanging out. Thank you, I will. Okay, good night, y'all.